So now let's get to the main event. It's phenomenal.
Welcome to the 2980 Network. You are listening to Open Mic Night. Open Mic Night is your source for everything Apple. We cover all the Apple news, tips, tricks, product updates, and wow, that is a complete ripoff of the intro from Jim Collison's show. I just get it ingrained in my head, and then I ended up saying the exact same intro. But you guys get the idea. We are an Apple-focused podcast, so if you have any questions or anything like that about Apple products, you found the right podcast. So everything you need about the podcast can be found over at 2980network.com. That is where all the subscription links are. Everything you need is over there. We are also now part of thegeeksnetwork.com. Thegeeksnetwork.com is a compilation network of a bunch of different technology podcasts. So if you're at all interested in tech, which if you're listening to this podcast, you probably are, head on over to thegeeksnetwork.com because there's a lot of other podcasts over there. They cover Windows, Home Server Show, Smart Home HQ is all about smart home stuff, which is like really cool. I just started listening to that podcast, and it's fantastic. So really getting some great ideas on the home automation. So here you get your Apple side, but if you need anything else regarding tech, head over to thegeeksnetwork.com. Also want to give a thank you to WLMNradio.com for streaming us live on the radio. Roger and everyone over there are just fantastic. So I really want to thank them for everything they do for us. And a big welcome to any of you who are listening over on WLMNradio.com or on the radio in Grafton, West Virginia. Good to have you aboard. Glad you are listening. So the first thing I want to mention now is that, it's a new year. It's 2016, and before I knew it, it was time for our next survey. So you guys know that yearly we put out a survey that you guys can just let us know how we are doing as a podcast. It's a great time. It's really difficult. If you guys are not podcasters, it's really difficult to kind of get a gauge of your audience and what they're liking, what they're not liking, any things they want you to change, and also just the format. You guys know that I'm notorious for changing up the format of the live show especially. So if you guys want to have your opinion heard, and I definitely want to hear it because I need to know how we are doing, Colin and I will both appreciate it. Head on over to 2980network.com/survey, and that'll take you straight to the survey. You can fill it out, 10 questions real quick, takes you about 5 minutes. And the last 2 questions on the survey, I always mention this, they're not required because they are kind of just the comment section of you guys can write in your own comments. I don't make it required, but it is probably the most beneficial question on the entire survey. So if there are things you guys want to see changed, if there's things you really like about the show that you don't want to see changed, go ahead and put it into the comments there on the survey. So 2980network.com/survey. If I can ask you guys to do like one thing this year, that would be it. I would love for you guys to fill out the survey just so Colin and I know how we are doing. Speaking of Mr. Colin Ball, Colin, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well.
Good. Yeah, we're back on this platform. If you guys are watching live, I know most of you end up listening to this show after the fact, but we did switch up the live platform tonight. So we are back using Google Hangouts Live, and then we embed that onto our website, and we have the chat room there for everyone to do. So to get engaged with the chat room and all that stuff. Main reason, you guys know we were trying out Blab for a little bit. And to be honest, towards the end there, Blab was doing great. And it was a great place to host a podcast. We had great engagement. For those of you who are watching live right now, you'll notice that, a lot of our friends that are usually over on Blab are not with us tonight. And so it was great because we did get a lot of engagement from the Blab community. A lot of people who had never heard of the podcast came over and were watching the show. So I really did appreciate that. It came down to just technology in the background, the video and the audio that they would send me after the fact, which is what we post to YouTube, and the audio is sometimes what we use for the audio part of the podcast. It was just getting jumbled and there was delays and people weren't in the right spot. So until they get some of that stuff worked out, we're going to be back on this, which I know this is actually probably the platform that works the best for everyone. We talked last week about WebRTC being an issue for some users wanting to watch the show in Safari. So now everyone should be able to watch the show. Everyone should be able to chat in the chat room. And that was kind of a last minute call. And so I forgot, I had deleted the chat room off the live page because Blab had it built in, and I had to go find a chat room real quick. I completely forgot what chat room did I use? I had no idea. So went over and grabbed a chat room and put it on there. So that's been the fun part, the fun backstory in the technology of podcasting. That's been what we have been dealing with. But for most of you listening to the audio, you wouldn't even know any different. So hopefully everything works out for you guys as well. So we are going to jump right into it. So tonight we have some news stories that are really important from Apple, things that I think you guys need to know about, and also a tip that will really, really help you guys out. And then we're going to go into some other things, some other suggestions that Colin and I have for different sort of technologies that you guys may have in your home, in your apartment, or things that you might want to try out. So that's the roadmap for tonight. That's what we're going to be doing. So let's just go ahead and get right down to it. So the first article is actually written from the Mac Observer. If you guys haven't noticed, I am a huge fan of the Mac Observer. If you guys ever need articles or tips or tricks, you guys should head over there because they have written an article about it. I guarantee it. They are just a fantastic publication. So the Mac Observer wrote an article about those pesky apps that tend to get stuck. If I can talk tonight, geez, I don't think I drank enough water before. They tend to get stuck in the installation phase. So if you guys have been trying to install an app and you notice that it just gets stuck in like a continuous loop, whether it's not downloading, whether it's installing, but you just notice that circle is never filling in or it turns gray on your iPhone, they have a fix for it. And I started to have this issue recently. Colin, have you experienced this on any of your devices?
Oh, the first time it started happening was back in December.
Really? So was it? Okay, so might be then, because someone on Twitter, actually the guy who wrote it, his name is Jeff Gamet, when he wrote it, and he was tweeting back and forth with me and one of the listeners, Brian, about this. I believe it was Brian. And we were talking about how this really came up with iOS 9. You know, it happened a little bit with iOS 7 and 8, but it's really gotten a lot worse in iOS 9. And I agree because I had not experienced this very much before. And now it happens to me probably 1 out of every maybe 4 times I install an app. I'd say it's about 25% for me. For you, is it more frequent or less?
I mean, I don't know if it's more frequent, but it seemed to always be the same few apps that were doing it. And I kept running into that where for a while, I think Instagram at one point was one of the ones where it's like, I'm the one that clicked update. So like I started the update and then all of a sudden like 15 minutes later, I look at my phone and it's still going. And then it would like get to the end and then start back over. And I was like, what is going on? But I mean, I just read through the article really quick or just kind of looked at what the solution was. And I mean, if you know what you're doing on an iPhone, the solution is fairly simple of like how to get rid of basically doing a complete delete of the app. Like,
right. So you want to walk people through the kind of the solution they gave or the solution that you have, which is the same one?
Yeah, sure. So most people, when they want to get rid of an app, what they're going to do is tap and hold, and you get the jiggle or like the frightened apps or whatever you want to call it, and you hit X. That won't work for this. It'll go away, but once you like lock your phone and open it back up, it'll still be there, only there won't be an app icon anymore. It'll just be kind of that weird what is that?
It's like almost like a circular graph paper on the icon. And sometimes you can't even hit the X.
No. Sometimes it just doesn't do anything. It doesn't even say delete. Or you'll hit delete and it'll just be like, all right, and it'll just sit. So the solution is step by step is to go into settings. So get out of wherever that app might be or go to your homepage or find settings. Go to general and find storage in iCloud. From there, you can go to manage storage, which is where everything will show up. Everything on your iPhone, every app at least, will show you how much storage that is taking up. From there, find the app that's causing you problems. Most likely that app icon will be gone, but it's at least in alphabetical order. Find it, click it, and then in that next page, you can hit delete app. That'll delete the whole thing from your phone. It'll clear it. You can just go back in, go back to the App Store, search for it, re-download, and it should work. Every time I've done it, I think I've run into one. I don't remember what one it was because, I mean, I just don't care. Like, I put it out of my mind. It was like, I redid it again, it worked. And I was like, okay, fine.
Right.
But it should just be one time where you just download it again. It'll be in the cloud, so you just tap the cloud. Take however long to download, and you're on your way.
Right. So, yeah, so that's a quick and easy way to have full access to just delete everything from that app on your phone. And so that seems to work. So that's a great suggestion from Mac Observer. And thank you to Jeff Garment. Gamut. Sorry, I always say his last name wrong for suggesting that.
Can I also say, when it comes to using the storage, if you don't know already, it's also a great way to get rid of music on your phone.
Yes.
So
Very
if
true.
you have music, kind of like Spotify, where if you download something or whatever, download it. But if it's on your phone, you can delete the whole thing, where it'll throw it back into the cloud, but it won't reside on your phone anymore. So if iTunes is taking up a lot of space, go through there, find the stuff you don't listen to, get rid of it.
Right. So real quick, our video is not auto switching, so I'm not sure why it's not switching back and forth for the listeners. I might have just gotten it now. I may have just gotten it. So hopefully that works. We'll have to remember to edit this part out of the video. Just as the glory of doing live podcasting and switching back and forth between platforms. I need to stick with one is my problem. So hopefully it's working now. Let us know in the chat room if it is not. I believe it is. So call and say something real quick.
Hello. That's what I said really quick.
Okay, so now I think it is switching back and forth because it's switching for me now. So I think we should be good now going forward. So
maybe I was just talking too much.
No, I think it was on my end. I was not remembering how to work Google Hangouts correctly. So all right, we'll get back started here. All right, so the next article we want to talk about is that there is a power supply recall on a lot of Mac AC power adapters, and this is mainly overseas. And so when you go to the Wired article that we will have in the show notes, they were talking about any power supplies, especially if you bought them between 2003 and 2015 in continental Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Korea, Argentina, or Brazil, you should send it back. So we will have a link to that article in the show notes. But luckily, I mean, for us here in the United States, none of ours were affected. But apparently, this was back when you had what we called it the duck bill. You could switch back and forth between the actual long extension cord and the one that just flips out for the wall. That was causing a shock hazard in a large amount. I mean, we're talking 12 years worth of power adapters that they are going to need to replace. So it's quite a large number. Kind of shocking for Apple. They're just now figuring this out 12 years later. I'm not sure if maybe it finally broke the threshold of number of units that, meet critical mass. They need to replace these. I'm not sure why now we're just getting this article, but we are. So Colin and I actually both have those power adapters, but we obviously have the United States version, so we should be good to go. But you can always, in this article, there is a link to check if your adapter is one that is faulty. So even if you live here, it's worth a shot just plugging in some numbers and seeing if you are good to go. Mine was okay. I did it, and so everything should be good to go. All right, the next thing I wanted to talk about was it is an issue that I have been having lately, and I had no idea why, what was the root cause of the problem. So I'm going to open up something here just so I can be looking at it and giving you guys the right terminology. But pretty much, I have an Amazon Echo in my home. I use it for all sorts of home automation. The Amazon Echo is just fantastic. I've talked about it on this show, and if I haven't talked about it enough on this show, I'm sure you guys have heard about it. It was on everyone's top list for Christmas gifts for 2015. And so the Echo is pretty much a tube in your home that listens to you and can do various things for you. Now, the most basic setup when you're setting up this Echo is getting it connected to Wi-Fi. And I had originally connected this to Wi-Fi in my home, and everything was fine. It was working great. And then I went and messed with my wireless network. I changed everything around, and pretty much the network that I made for that this was using, I made that a guest network. So no problem, right? All I got to do is go into the Echo and switch over to my new private network, and everything should be good to go. Now, mind you, both of these networks had passwords on them. But however, I went to go switch to my new private network and it would not work. Every time I'm putting in the correct password, that was driving me nuts for a while. I thought I wasn't. So I reset the password a few times. It will not connect. The Echo will not connect. Now, I've had some issues with my network before, but never anything connecting to Wi-Fi. Usually that works pretty well. And then sometimes it's just internet connection issues or other things like that. So this got me thinking. So what I went in and I found is that there is an issue with the Echo and Apple AirPort Extremes if you have the wrong wireless security on the network. So What I had WPA2 personal turned on. That was all I had on the new network. And that was fine for every other device. Everything I have wanted to connect to the Wi-Fi has worked, except the Echo does not like that. So I had to go in and switch the setting. And first of all, never use WEP, which they don't even make it an option anymore on the Airport Extreme, which is great, but never switch to that. But what you need to do, if you have one of these airports and it's not playing nicely with your Echo, go and turn it to WPA and WPA2 personal. This is a kind of a bug that I have found, and I find it kind of interesting that it doesn't work with WPA2 personal. It has to just be WPA. It can do all sort of enterprise level security, but it can't do that. So I don't know if it's just a bug between the two, between the Echo and the airport, or if they actually don't support that. But that's just something I wanted to mention to you guys, just in case you are having the same issue I was having, and it was driving me nuts. I was doing all sorts of settings that were not working, and lo and behold, it was the security. So it came down to that.
I believe that same thing will happen if you're using, I don't know, on the new Chromecasts, the Chromecast for video.
Okay.
But I was running into it when I first moved into this apartment. Excuse me.
Oh, that's when you were using the Airport Express, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but the Airport Express, all we were doing was pushing Wi-Fi out through it. But we had, I think WPA2 was turned on for the router, which was, I think it's a Motorola. I don't know. I kind of have a wonky system.
That all-in-one unit.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we had something turned on where I could connect. If I reset the Chromecast, I could connect the first time. If I turned off the TV or stopped using it for a little bit or turned off the app, instantly, like, it no longer would recognize that I had set it up. It would tell me it was set up, but my phone couldn't connect if I was on the Wi-Fi.
Interesting. Okay.
It was the most frustrating, like, 4 days. I remember, like, I kept sending you, I'm like, I hate this thing. It's not
Right.
working.
So that was the issue then, switching it to WPA and WPA2 personal.
Yeah,
Was,
and I think,
okay.
the only reason that I stopped using the airport was because I was like, what I have works, so it's fine.
Right, yeah. So hopefully, so you never know, and Brian points out in the chat that the Nintendo 3DS still only supports WEP, which is interesting because everyone knows that you can easily hack a WEP network. So yeah, if you're having all sorts of issues with your Wi-Fi, go check the security settings and make it the most available. Also, you should always check the channel settings. If you have any old like A or B wireless devices, like really old, and you only support N or anything like that, you should check all those sort of settings because those can be wonky too, depending on what kind of device you're trying to connect to your network. All right, so the next thing. Okay, so this is how this topic got brought up for me. I recently had an iTunes gift card, and I went and bought a movie on iTunes because, I was like, well, I have some money. I don't really buy anything else. Let's buy a movie. And then, I always come to the realization, okay, this means I'm going to have to whip out my Apple TV again because, as you guys know, as I've talked about, the Apple TV is fantastic, but I have switched, as well as Colin. Well, Colin didn't switch. He started using the Xbox One as the media device in the house because it's fantastic. You can connect to Plex. It has Netflix. You can rent movies on it. You can do absolutely everything you can do on the Apple TV plus more. So that's why I switched. But I got back out the Apple TV, and I went to go to play the movie, and I was just like, oh man, I kind of forgot the entire process of the Apple TV, how it works, how it looks, and kind of the limitations of the Apple TV. So the new Apple TV that has come out, obviously it has apps, you can have Plex and stuff like that, but there's just a few things that I think Apple is really missing the boat on that Xbox is doing so well, and those are kind of some of the things I want to talk about. So these are more like, to bring it around to Apple, these are hopes and dreams for future Apple TVs, even though they just released this one and they're probably not going to release another one for a while. So the first being HDMI pass-through. Everyone knocked this when it came out. Everyone said it's kind of stupid. Why would you need to connect? Why would you want to run your cable box through your Xbox? And I can just tell you, as someone who has done it for a while, it's awesome. You don't have to switch inputs. You don't switch HDMI inputs. And if you have the correct cabling, and it works good either way, but if you have the correct cabling, your Xbox can even change the channel of your cable box with a $5 little wire and sticking it to the front of your cable box. You can have the Xbox do absolutely everything. So that's step number one. And Colin, I believe you use this, right? You have your cable box hooked in through your Xbox.
Yeah.
I mean, and do you like it, or is it kind of like I could take it or leave it?
I mean, there are some days where I kind of don't like it, where I don't like the fact that, like I don't want to play Xbox that night, but all of a sudden my Xbox is on and I have a controller in my hand and I'm like, I guess I could play.
Because you were watching TV with it. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. And like there are some days where I tell myself, it's like, well, it's not really that difficult to unplug the stupid thing and plug it back into my TV. But then like I go through this stupid rationalization of like, that'll take time. It'll take 10 seconds.
It's an ease of use thing that just once you start doing it, it's like having a Retina display on any device you own. Once you have one, going back to anything that's not Retina, you're like, oh, it looks really blurry. Like it's kind of hard to look at. It's just kind of that, it's a total first world problem sort of thing. But it is nice. Now, that's not the main thing I want to talk about. It's connected, but it's not the main thing. What I just love about the Xbox, and this has been kind of a recent discovery for me. So when you run your cable box through your Xbox, they have this thing called OneGuide. Now, as the name implies, this is your TV guide, and it's the Xbox guide. So instead of using the guide from your cable box, which, in all honesty, the ones from my cable provider look awful, this one from Xbox is really sleek looking. So it's got a guide. It's just fantastic, right? So, but it's a basic TV guide, nothing special. You can scroll through, and like I said, if you have the right cabling, you can just click on it in the Xbox, and it'll change the channel on your cable box. So that's fantastic. And that's what I thought OneGuide was this whole time. Now, this update that they just had back in November, and even before the update, I think, but mainly after the update, OneGuide is far, far more powerful than I think anyone gives it credit for. And this is what everyone has wanted, but no one's talking about how great it is. No one's talking about OneGuide really being the solution that we've all been looking for. What I mean by that is we have all wanted a service that just, it knows what we subscribe to. Hey, you have cable, you have Netflix. First of all, I know what cable package you have because when you sign in with your OneGuide on Xbox, it asks you, okay, what cable provider do you have? Do you have the digital version? Do you just have standard channels? What do you have? So it knows what I have. So it knows what is on TV right now that I can watch. It knows it's on Netflix, Hulu. And if you go to this OneGuide, so if you're on your home screen of your Xbox and you go over there, it gives you all sorts of suggestions of what other people are watching. Hey, it's Christmas time. There are these Christmas movies on these channels. You click on it and it takes you right there. Or, hey, on Netflix, there's this new movie that you might like. Now, I know the number one argument against this is that traditional people who worry about privacy, which we all should, but if you really worry about privacy, people don't like that sort of suggestions and knowing what I'm watching and then suggesting different things. And I understand that. It's a valid concern. You might not want, the Xbox knowing what you watch. But, man, if you are okay with that, it's awesome. Now, Colin, you and I had this conversation. We were actually playing Xbox, and I said, hey, have you checked this out? Did you end up going over there and looking at it at all?
I mean, since I don't have it set up with the IR cables, like it doesn't pull anything in for the most part. But I mean, I've kind of popped over to the side of it, like accidentally opened OneGuide because all you have to do is hit A basically.
Right.
And it came up and then I like kind of flicked over and was like, oh, there are 3 or 4 things now on the side when you open that up. I think it's 3 where there's like a star, so it's your favorites.
Oh, okay, you're talking about that menu. One on the bottom.
I have no. Oh, I know what you're talking about.
On the main screen, and you go over on the very top to OneGuide, and then it kind of opens up a lot more. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I know what you're talking about. Once I set it to just go to live TV.
Right.
I'm sure it would pull in for me like Netflix stuff and Hulu.
Yeah, it does.
But I mean, I never use it. I just go to Netflix and be like, oh, that looks good.
Well, and if you don't have the IR cable, it wouldn't be as convenient. It would still be kind of cool to say, oh, hey, on TBS, I know that there's this movie, about this that I might like. But this is just something that we've all talked about and how, okay, so we have all these media devices in our homes. I was the Apple TV before. We want something that just knows what we subscribe to and makes suggestions based on that. There were all these websites that I used to go to. We'd be sitting around in our dorm room, right, Colin? We'd be like, hey, I want to watch this movie. What service does one of us have? One of us has HBO Go, one of us has Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime. Where is this at? So there was always like websites like where is it streamed or something like that, where you would type in a movie and it would tell you where you can watch it. But this is it's awesome. And the OneGuide even has, it knows the movies that you can rent from the Xbox as well. So it pulls in those. And this is the type of thing that just has been transformative for me in my media consumption. And I think that the Apple TV, now I'm not sure the Roku might even have this. I've heard that some other different services, especially like TiVo and stuff like that, are trying to get into this. But I just feel like the reason I want to talk about it is because I felt like no one is talking about it, and it's there. And the reason I don't think people are talking about it is because it's not front and center when you click the OneGuide button on the media remote, or if you're just watching live TV. It doesn't show you all those options. It comes up with just the guide. And most people, I would say, Colin, I would say that most people are like you. They've got the Xbox without the Kinect, because with the Kinect, you don't need the IR cable. If you have a Kinect, it can control your cable box. But most people like you, like me, we didn't get the Kinect right off the bat. And a lot of people don't know about the IR cables. So I don't think people are fully utilizing the Xbox to its fullest potential. But man, it is just really, it's become something that I really hope Apple kind of brings in, because Apple could do it with, and I know they have been, there's suggestions now on the Apple TV. So I maybe need to go play with one of the new Apple TVs to really see what they have. Because I know they have something like this. I know that Siri, if you are searching for something, will give you all the different places you can watch it. But the OneGuide, it's just fantastic. I just can't speak highly enough about it. So just something I want to bring up to you guys and see what you guys thought about it. See how you guys feel about your media player that you use in your house. I know a lot of people build their own. Jim Collison over on Home Gadget Geeks, the show I do on Thursday, he has his own media server. He has tuners in the box that'll bring it in. It's his own DVR, so it'll record things for him. And so some people do it that way, and that is their media server, and that's how they do it. But just interesting. And with the price point on the Xbox and the Apple TV, you're not paying too much more, and you get a full gaming console and a lot of really rich compatibility and usability on the Xbox. So.
Aren't you paying double? I mean, I guess if you're buying the top Apple TV, it's $200, but
yeah, okay. Well, yeah, but I think can't you get an Xbox One now for around $300, $350? So it still is.
I think it's still about $350.
But what I'm saying is $200 for an Apple TV or $169, however much it is not cheap already. You're already shelling out a big chunk of change for a device that you are only going to be consuming things on. So maybe you could consider the Xbox One in all of that. All right, so real quick, we are going to mention our affiliate of this week. So our affiliate is TunnelBear. TunnelBear is a fantastic VPN service for all of your Apple devices, especially on the iOS side. You can get in free and get, I think, a free gig a month worth of VPN service. So if you are worried about security when you're in those public places, as you're traveling around, when you're in coffee shops and all that sort of stuff, TunnelBear is great for keeping you secure. Great VPN service. I just love it. They came on the scene recently and have really been a big player in this. And so you can sign up. And like I said, I think you get a full gig for free per month, which is a lot of data already. So if you only use it sparingly, something good to check out. If you want to help us out and use our affiliate link for TunnelBear, head over to 2980network.com/TunnelBear. All together, all one word, TUNNELBEAR. Check them out. I've really liked them. And like I said, my whole theory on affiliates for the show is it's stuff that I have to have used and stuff that I really, really liked. So, and that meets the criteria. Really like it. And of course, I will mention we love our patrons. If you guys want to support the show without using affiliate links, if you guys just want to support us, Patreon is the way. I would love you guys to support the show. It'd just be great to have you guys give back to the show if you guys feel so inclined. So 2980network.com/Patreon, Patreon, will take you over to the page. It's kind of a monthly donation is how that works. So you pledge a certain amount per month. You can stop at any time, whatever you want. So if that is something you guys are interested in, 2980network.com/Patreon, Colin and I would really, really appreciate it. All right, so the next story is, it's not really a story. It's a kind of a quick tip for you technology guys out there. If you guys like monitoring, and Colin, at first when I was typing this in the show notes, I'm like, this is going to be one of those items that Colin's not going to have any interest in. But
I mean, I knew don't I have it on my computer?
No, I don't think so.
That's not what that is?
No, I don't think it is what that is. So for any of you guys who like monitoring social media, websites, if you have Google Analytics that you guys want to monitor, if you guys, I mean, this is really for anyone, especially for the techie. So if you have a website, this will be great. But even for, and when, Colin, what I was just about to say is even for someone like Colin, if you just wanted to monitor social media, whether it be for work, for personal, monitor all your metrics for that sort of stuff, I have found a fantastic dashboard. I was actually tweeting back and forth with them just the other day. They have fantastic support. That had to be the thing that jumped out to me the most by them. It's called Cyfe. So Cyfe.com, Cyfe. They are a dashboard monitoring. So they're all web-based. You don't have to download an app. You actually can't download an app, I don't believe. but it's all done via the web. You can also go to the website on your phone, save it to your home screen, and it almost acts like an app. It's a web app for the iOS. And so I went in there and I plugged in things like my Google AdWords, my Google Analytics, my Facebook page metrics, and all that stuff. And then also I added in my Google Analytics of the real-time people on the site. So with one dashboard, I put it over on one of my screens. I have it up all the time. I can just quickly monitor all the stuff going on across my website and social media. So it's really, really cool. And you can get in for free. Now, they're not an affiliate. This is just me telling you about a cool product I found. So you can get in for free, and you get up to 5 what they call widgets on the dashboard, meaning, so I monitor 5, social media, AdWords, analytics, but 5 is more than enough for most people. I wish I could have more because I have a ton of analytics that I could measure. I don't need to, though. I only really need 5. And so for any of you who are looking for that sort of thing, man, it's just really cool. Even if you just have social media, it's just kind of fun to see your likes, your engagements, your followers in a sort of graphical interface that kind of you can see. And it's nice because it does it in a month view by default. So if you get the free version, you're only limited to a month view for each widget, but kind of cool to see your trend as it goes back and forth. Colin, is that something that even interests like the slightest in people who are following social media? Like, is that something that'd be interesting for you guys?
I mean, probably, but at the same time, there are a lot stronger social media. I mean, just social media based kind of things.
Right. Yeah.
And
No,
I mean,
yeah.
Google Analytics as a whole, like using just Google Analytics, like it's just more robust. Like you just get more out of it. And
Right.
I mean, something like this, like Cyfe seems like something I've heard of it before. I forget where. It's probably from you, but
Probably was.
To me, it would be one of those things that would be a great small business solution if all you really want to know, if you hire out a lot of stuff when it comes to like monitoring your website or monitoring social media and beyond that, where you can have access to seeing how many people have liked your Facebook page or how many people are tweeting at you, whatever it may be, how many people are coming to your website. Having those quick analytics, that would be great for a small business. But I mean, when it comes to a company that's trying to run and like SEO services and things like that,
just not robust enough.
Yeah, Cyfe probably not the greatest idea. You probably want all those individual services.
Exactly. I would say Cyfe is probably more intended for, in the office, you need a free service that you want to put up a monitor somewhere and just have your dashboard so everyone in the company can just walk by and at a glance see, oh, wow, look at how many active users we got on the site right now. Look how many things we got here. And that's really what I use it for. I still, when I want to see more in-depth detail, will go to the full Google Analytics, right? Because this is just a preview. But it is nice for me to just be able to monitor throughout the day how many hits we're getting, how many downloads on the podcast we're getting, so sort of things like that. So yeah, I just thought you guys would want to know about it. So that's cyfe.com. All right, so Carbon Copy Cloner. You guys have heard me talk about this. We've had numerous conversations on backup cloning, the importance of making backups of all of your different computers. Well, when I mentioned Carbon Copy Cloner, what that does is it pretty much, like it says, clones your drive to another drive. So the intention of this is to have another, quote, bootable drive. So that means that using Carbon Copy Cloner, if you have a spare hard drive laying around that you want to use, you use Carbon Copy Cloner, and if your hard drive ever goes down, you will be able to boot up your computer from this external drive. That is the point of it. Now, the thing I want to mention, though, is because I got a question from someone because they followed my advice on using Carbon Copy Cloner, but they have a NAS unit, right? Just like the one I have back there. It's a server of sorts, some sort of home storage. And the problem they were having was it was telling them they couldn't do that because it wasn't formatted correctly for the Apple. So that's totally correct. But what I use Carbon Copy Cloning for is creating an image. So you can create an image file, which means it's not bootable, but it can create an image file that you can then put onto a new drive if you ever need to. So the way you do that is when you point to your NAS, you'll point to it and it'll tell you can't do it because it's not an HFS plus extended journaled, something like that. I can never remember the exact specifics, but it's not OS 10 journaled format. So it can't create bootable, but switch the setting over there to create an image instead, and you should be good to go. So thank you for that question in the email. We got it all worked out via the email. I told them that, and they said, great, works awesome now. But it's a good thing to know because I was when I first ran into it, I didn't know what I was going to do either. So I just create an image file that is stored over there on the server. So, and again, Carbon Copy Cloner, just grab it. It's worth the money. I think it's like $30 right now, $40. If you have extra drives laying around that you can back up to, just do it. It's just fantastic. It's the best way to do any sort of backup. All right, so this is a quick tip. As we bring this show in for a close, we are going to bring up a quick tip here. If you have ever used the Option key on a Mac, you know that it can be extremely powerful. And what I mean by that is if you hold the Option key and you click on certain things, let's say your Wi-Fi. So you click the option, hold the option, and you click on Wi-Fi, it'll actually give you all sorts of extra information that you don't get by simply clicking on it. So it'll give you your address, it'll give you your MAC address for that specific device. It'll give you all sorts of things as well as running analytics, running diagnostics rather. It's really powerful on the Mac. So that's great to use for that and getting more information. But how often do you do that? Well, here's another use case for it. For me, when I'm podcasting, right, I am sending out my audio, I'm bringing Colin's audio back into the computer and out into the mixer. Now, it'd be really annoying if every time I got a text or a notification, those notification sounds were also going through the output. So one thing you can do is you can click Option and click on your notification, the little hamburger up in the far right-hand corner of your computer, something that I really don't even touch. I don't think I ever click that icon on the Mac. I love notifications on iOS, but I don't use it on the computer. But if you do, if you Option click it, you will notice it'll turn gray. And that pretty much turns on Do Not Disturb mode on your computer. So no sounds will come in. This is great if you're going to a meeting and you need to have audio playing for some reason, Skype, a presentation, anything like that. It'll just prevent those from coming in until you turn it back off. So then to turn that back off, just click back on the notification tab and you can turn back off Do Not Disturb. But this is interesting because the Do Not Disturb is not an option until you Option click. So if I just go to that notifications, that Do Not Disturb toggle is not there. So you need to Option click on it. I think it's just they do that because most people want that on and they have no reason to turn it off. But just something good to know. So that Option extremely powerful for you Mac users out there. Colin, anything else from you on tips or tricks this week? Throwing you off.
I mean, no, not really. Not that I can think of. It is sad how little, for as much as I used like tech like a year and a half, 2 years ago, how little I like utilize so many things now is.
Oh, don't say that. I don't want to have to fire you. I like having a co-host.
I do well.
No, I totally agree. It's hard for me to come up with those too. A lot of times it's things that I think of like, okay, what has someone asked me in the past week where I thought, oh, that seems pretty basic, but to someone else it might not be, because those are sort of things that I really appreciate someone else telling me. So little tips and tricks there. Well, Colin, I will give you one. I'll do one for you. So the last tip is if you have an Apple Watch, something that's not really explained too well, but if you start to get a notification, let's say a phone call. Now, I always keep mine on Do Not Disturb pretty much because I'm at work or in school, places I don't want my watch ringing. But if you start to get a call, cover it up. Just put your hand over it and it'll mute it. It'll stop it. So it kind of seems intuitive. It's actually something that most people do by mistake for the first time. But with the Apple Watch, if you just cover it up, it'll stop making ringing noises and it'll just dismiss the alert. So something good to know. And especially if you have an Apple Watch that you like to have the notifications on, if you keep the sound on, good to know. All right, so we are going to bring this thing in for a close this week. Thank you for everyone who is out here live and putting up with all of the craziness that happened, the switching over and the closing out the live show right before the show is about to start. Thank you for dealing with that. A big thank you to all of the new listeners. We have had a massive growth in listeners over the past few weeks. So I just really appreciate all you guys coming on board, listening to the show. So if you are a new listener, I would love even you guys to fill out the survey. I know you guys haven't been listening for too long, but 2980network.com/survey for anyone that is listening to the show. I would love to hear from you. And also, I would love just to hear from you. So if you want to tweet me at WiegerTech, Wieger is WIEGER, and then Tech, TECH. Tweet me, email me, Mike at 2980network.com. Let me know you're listening. Let me know how you found the show. I would love to just meet you and hear from you. And of course, I'll answer any questions if you have those. But if you just want to say hi, that would be awesome. Colin is at Colin with 1L _ 13. And man, I think that's like the first time I got that right without saying it wrong. But yeah, at Colin _ 13. And he's on Twitter. And hit him up too. Of course, he's available and he would love to talk with all you wonderful people. I think, Colin, you like talking to people, right?
Yeah, if it's a really technical question, I might direct you to a friend of mine named Google. But
yeah. Okay, speaking of that, have you seen, okay, real quick tangent before we end the show. Have you seen the Let Me Google That For You webpage?
No, but that
Okay.
sounds like something I say a lot.
Well, so this is for you, and for all you people out there, you're welcome. So the way I found this out was on our Facebook page. Someone asked a question that, let's just say, was extremely like easy to find. They asked a question about our schedule, and so someone, if you go to, let me Google that for you. Actually, just Google that because I don't know if that's the actual URL. What it does is it records your web browser while you go to Google. You type something in, and you click on usually like the top link, and it's right there, and then you can post that GIF to someone. So if you want to do it on your computer, if you're sending it over a message or something like that, and it's just highly entertaining. So it makes a little thing. So the person's response is you going to Google and giving them the answer that pops up first. So there's a little tidbit for you guys who want to have some fun with people who ask you questions a lot that you can just Google. All right, well, 2980network.com is where all the subscription links are. You guys can head over there for absolutely everything, show notes, anything like that. I noticed a lot of you guys are actually playing the podcast from the website now. That's cool. We love it. You know that you can always listen to it there, but I always suggest just subscribing in iTunes, subscribing to the RSS feed, your podcast app of choice. That is definitely the easiest way to get the show. And of course, YouTube works as well, and the live show. If you guys want to come out live, we are live every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Central Time. That's 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I always have to think about that, doing math. So that is what time you can head out to 2980network.com/live at that time, and you guys can join us. We have the chat room you guys can hop on in. So big thank you to Brian and PTD out there in the chat room for being out here each and every week. Our loyal listeners, we love them as well. And again, thegeeksnetwork.com, all sorts of great tech podcasts out there. And thank you to WLMNradio.com. We thank you guys. We hope you guys have a good week. But until we see you guys next time, tech on.